This is Golden Years, a roadmap to navigate retirement with Mark Cordner, the podcast.
You know, there's lots of people out there always looking for advice, right? And recently, a 65-year-old guy wrote to an advice column on MarketWatch.com saying that he's been pulling about 10% of his IRA out to do Roth conversions, but the market's gone up over 20%. So his balance keeps going up. Seems like a great thing there. So you would think this is a good problem to have, but he's trying to get all of his money de-taxed and feels like he's on a treadmill here and he's never going to get off. What would you tell him, Mark?
Oh, I'd say take the long view. You know, it's wonderful that the market was up 20%, but it won't be up 20% every year. The market, as is its nature, will fluctuate. And so what I always recommend is get with a professional. You know, this is something that my office does. My associate Daniel and I do a lot of this. I mean, Roth conversions is a key part of our practice. And what you want to do is set up a strategy to systematically convert your money over a period of time. You can do it all at once if you're willing to pay the tax on the entire conversion amount as well as your current income. But what we usually do is we try to manage the tax bracket so we can reduce their cost, make that conversion process more digestible, and spread it over a number of years. But the most important point is it's not a one-time calculation. We do that calculation. We're actually doing a tax analysis based upon the tax returns. And this is just included in our normal services. And so we're doing that every year so that we can make a recommendation each year, and then clients can make the choice of, do we want to pay the tax now while we're in a historically low tax environment and get that IRA money liberated, get it reclassified into Roth IRA status so that those monies can grow into the future and be spent in the future absolutely income tax free. And this is all legal and encouraged actually by Uncle Sam. And so I would tell that gentleman to be grateful for the 20% blips, but let's think in terms of the full retirement. But yeah, when we do those calculations for people, we can show them not only what the precise cost of the tax conversion will be, but what their lifetime savings will be. Mm-hmm. And that's a big deal because that helps them. You know, when they see what the lifetime savings can be, that it often is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars in tax savings, then it makes it easier to bite the bullet, as it were, and pay the tax now. But there's also other considerations. I mean, many people don't have to convert their entire amount because if they don't have pension or rental income, for example, if their IRA savings, 401k savings is the only money they have in addition to Social Security, well, some of that money can come out of the plan under the standard deduction, absolutely income tax free. And this is a powerful concept most people don't realize. They earn the money and contribute it to the 401k without being taxed on it at the time it was earned. It's not being taxed while it grows. And now they can take a portion of that money out, absolutely income tax free under the standard deduction. So I would also tell this gentleman to, let a professional, let us do a tax analysis for you. It may be that you don't have to convert as much as you thought you did. So I would say if taxes are a concern for people, give us a call. Let's sit down and visit. We can do this analysis for you, and we're happy and eager to do it because it's not what you make, it's what you keep. And we can't control what's happening with future tax rates. Granted, yes, President Trump succeeded in getting these tax cuts made quote-unquote permanent, but that just means through 2028. And so things are absolutely going to change in the future. If taxes are a concern for you, come visit with us. Please come visit with us. Let us help you get this money liberated, as it were, from the IRS. Pay the taxes now, get it behind you so that money is tax-free in the future. We can help you with this. It's what we specialize in.
Yeah, if you're looking for that tax-free retirement, folks, this is the place to be. If you'd like to come in for this tax analysis, we're going to do it complimentary for our radio listeners only. Again, this is getting you a tax plan in place, a tax strategy in place, giving you opportunities to be tax-free in retirement. That phone number, 702-996-4050, 702-996-4050. That website, MyGoldenYearsRoadmap.com. Now, guaranteed income, we talk about this all the time, Mark. I mean, guaranteed income, it is like the best conversation having when you're talking about your retirement because it's essentially going to help you replace that paycheck, right? And it comes in several different forms, such as Social Security, a pension, obviously an annuity, even treasuries. Morningstar's Christine Benz says people often put a higher priority on this type of income.
To the extent that they have non-portfolio income coming in, they tend to be more comfortable spending it. They give themselves more license to spend, which to me translates into a little bit of a happiness dividend. If you're not worried about the spending that you're doing, you're just going to be more comfortable and happy in retirement. So I think that's an important finding, that people who have more guaranteed income do tend to be a bit comfier and happier in retirement.
Well, we've talked about that before, Mark. I mean, folks that get that, we used to call it mailbox money before the days of, direct deposit. But of course, you're happier, right? That income is continuously coming in, much like, again, kind of mimicking that paycheck that you had. But how much retirement income should really ideally come from guaranteed sources?
Well, certainly enough to cover your basic expenses. I mean, I personally speak a lot about dignity in our retirement years, and people need to have a certain amount of income to cover whatever their basic needs are. So once we identify what that floor is, I say let's always address that through guaranteed income sources. Because in our experience, there's three levels of expenses. There's your survival needs, there's your quality of life, and then there's the luxuries in life. And even if we can't achieve the luxuries, if people's means are too limited to achieve the luxuries, we got to at least make sure that they maintain their dignity. And so we address dignity, spending, income levels through guaranteed sources. And often an annuity is the best way to do that because most Americans don't have pensions. They do have Social Security, generally speaking, but even there's concerns there. But this woman is interesting, and she talks about non-portfolio money. I would call that, I think what she means by that is money that's not in the stock market. And she's absolutely correct in that there's been a number of studies, I think of the Wharton School, Principal Financial, T.J. Watson that's done it. There's a number of institutions that have done studies on this. The academics are overwhelmingly clear that people who have guaranteed sources of income are happier and they live longer. And this is no surprise. I mean, look around at, our friends, particularly those who have worked for the government, who have these guaranteed paychecks, as we call them, coming in every month. They had the structure of paychecks during their working year. Now they have paychecks coming in every month. That does give them confidence to spend because they know as long as they're breathing, that money's coming. My dad made a funny comment about this when I talked to him about it once. He said, I get to beat the house for a change. We're here in Vegas. And he says, we can actually beat the house. There's this encouragement to live longer, frankly, because that check is coming in. And so guaranteed income is a wonderful thing. It's a key part of my personal planning, particularly because, my wife doesn't engage a lot with financial issues. She's absolutely incredible with children and family, but financial things are not really her interest. And I've made absolutely sure that if I die tomorrow, she has income contractually guaranteed to come to her, and that gives her a lot of relief. There'll be other monies for the quality of life and the luxury things, but in terms of her knowing that she and our son with disabilities will always have the income they need, that's a tremendous relief. For her and for me, of course, because that's my number one concern. I get a little emotional even thinking about it. My heavens, the number one concern I have is that my wife's okay. And I've already been able to guarantee that because I personally own 6 annuities. I'm in the process of buying another one. And I'm doing this because I want absolute assurance that the people I love most are always going to be secure.
I mean, and it's okay that you're getting emotional about it. I mean, these are absolutely things that are emotional and personal, making sure your spouse and your children are taken care of and making those right decisions now. And that's also part of the sacrifice when you start planning for retirement. Yes, it's about the 401k and all that kind of stuff, but it's also about being more proactive and realizing there's other vehicles, so to speak, to help you get to that finish line. And an annuity is one of them.
It is. And this idea of guaranteed income appeals to people. We say, come talk to us, because most people don't realize that they can actually have that same confidence. There's a lot of anxiety approaching, this big jump into the unknown when people leave the security of a paycheck that they've been accustomed to for 10, 20, 30, 40 years of work, There's a lot of anxiety with that, and we can completely eliminate that anxiety with contractually guaranteed income from the strongest financial institutions in the world. This is a routine part of our duty. Every day we're doing this for people, and it's a wonderful liberation. I mean, come into our office, you can see just a fraction of the thank you cards we get from clients because they're sleeping better at night, and that's just a wonderful gift for all of us. If they want to learn more, give us a call. We'd love to help you learn about these things and help you get that same kind of confidence.
Yeah, getting that added sleep insurance, as I like to call it, knowing that you have that guaranteed income coming in every single month, replacing that paycheck. I like to call it the Replace the Paycheck Challenge. Come in and challenge Mark. All right, Mark, how can you help me replace my paycheck in retirement? You show me on paper where this income's going to come from. So let's call it the Replace the Paycheck Challenge. Give a call today, 702-996-4050, 702-996-4050. Again, that website, mygoldenyearsroadmap.com. It's kind of interesting. I ran across something online that talked about the familiar products that took off because customers use them in the wrong way. Number one here, Listerine. It was actually obviously a disinfectant before someone started using it as mouthwash in the 1920s. That's not a shock to me. Listerine will practically take your mouth away. It's so potent. This one got me here. Play-Doh was originally used to clean wallpaper in the 1930s. It later became a toy after schools started using it for classroom projects. So I'll be thinking about that when I'm making dinosaurs out of Play-Doh with my son later this week. And WD-40 was developed to prevent rust on nuclear missiles. And that's until employees snuck some home to treat their rusty doors and joints. So it became a household item there. So sometimes the best retirement plans, they come from thinking outside the box here. So, Mark, what are some mistakes that people make when they assume that there's only one right way to retire?
Oh, wow. There's so many levels to this question. It's a great question. None of us know what we don't know. We're limited by our life experiences, and sometimes tradition is what holds people back the worst. We can absolutely revolutionize someone's retirement plan if we can get them thinking differently, and often that means rejecting some of the ideas they may have inherited from their parents or their culture. But yeah, thinking differently is a key thing, and that's where I think people really benefit from working with us because we have decades of experience. We've dealt with hundreds and even thousands of people transitioning into retirement, and we've learned some things through that process about human nature. For example, the assumption that we're going to be able to work until a certain age. Something like 48% of people retire earlier than expected for reasons entirely beyond their control. Things like medical problems, or maybe a job layoff, economic recessions, for example, or a family member getting sick, who knows. And so we have to, again, be flexible. We've got to think differently. We can't lock ourselves into certain ways of thinking. But we can also, there are strategies that we routinely, just regularly utilize with our clients where we multi-purpose money. And what I mean by that is sometimes people think that their money can only do one job, like create income or maybe grow to outpace inflation. But with these modern products that have been developed, these financial tools are so powerful that often we can add features to an investment product that give us a backstop. They add guardrails in for things that people don't think about, like long-term care. So we very frequently in my office we'll take a limited amount of money that a person has, and we will put it into a safe place, often out of the market, because they want that security and they need that security. And then we'll add a feature to the contract that says, just in case you get sick, let's say you need hands-on care with things like dressing, eating, bathing, toileting, all these things we don't want to talk about that are in the future of 3 out of 4 of us. We need long-term care. How are we going to come up with money for that? Well, there are financial products out there that basically have triggers built into them that says, if you experience this or that kind of emergency situation, it will trigger and we will have this larger amount of money that just suddenly blossoms and becomes available for people to use. And again, I keep referring to long-term care because that's a big one. But, another example I can think of is that's been a great tool in my own personal life and in so many of my clients is the creative use of life insurance. For hundreds of years, people have thought of life insurance just as being there to take care of the widow and orphan. And they don't think about the fact that that money that goes to the widow and orphan goes to them tax-free. And because of that, the law also allows people to access money out of certain types of life insurance tax-free while they're alive. And so we can use that to create supplemental income, much like Roth IRA income that comes to them tax-free. It also, the death benefit can multi-purpose and be used for chronic illness. In other words, long-term care expenses while people are alive. So it's not just for the widow and orphan. It can now be used for the policy owner through what are commonly called living benefits. There's asset protection issues, probate issues. There's all sorts of multiple benefits that come from a product that people thought was only good for one thing, and that was taking care of the widow and orphan. In fact, people call universal life insurance in particular, they call it the Swiss Army knife of financial planning because it has so many different applications. And again, that's just one example. I don't mean to, point to one particular product, but it's a great illustration of this idea that people don't know what they don't know. And it's wonderful to be able to share these ideas with people and let them know that, yes, you may not have been able to prepare as well as you had hoped to by your retirement age, but we can still multi-purpose your money to keep you safe. So if these ideas intrigue people, come visit with us. We'd love to share them with you. We don't work for any particular investment or insurance company. We work for the clients. We're fiduciaries, and so we're going to present whatever strategies make the most sense for their situation. And multi-purposing a limited number of dollars is something that we regularly do because most of us are not where we would hope to be financially.
Investment advisory service is offered through Golden Years Financial LLC, a registered investment advisory firm. Insurance is offered through Golden Years Insurance Services. These firms do not provide legal or tax advice. Consult your own legal and tax advisors before taking actions that may have tax implications. Investing in securities involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Insurance contracts principal protection is based on the claim-paying ability of the respective insurer. None of the information contained on this website shall constitute an offer to sell or solicit to buy a security or insurance product. The information and opinions contained on this site or requested from this site are provided by third parties believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. They are provided for informational purposes only and are not a solicitation to buy or sell any of the products mentioned. Any media logos and or trademarks contained herein are the property of their respective owners, and no endorsement by those owners of Mark Cordner, Golden Years Financial, or Golden Years Insurance is stated or implied.